How the dice fell. Flint Daniels and the Nightmare in the Garden of the Stars. Part 4. When last we left our fearless explorers, they were on the planet of the Starflowers. And our plan was...
They had died in the desert.
Yes, that's right. We were
only just.
We were trying to go to Radiant Fury's domain, and we were trying to find a secret entrance. And since we almost succeeded at Forbidden Desert, which is the best that anyone has ever done at that game, Brian said that we found an entrance, but it was guarded by two of those gorilla and rippers.
Brian, is your current background the door?
Yes.
Guarded entrance?
Yes, it was actually a ventilation shaft.
Yes.
So yeah, the idea was there were these two big hulking gorilla guys guarding the entrance, and the party had to take them out quietly. So they were going to have to do fisticuffs. And I wanted it to
not knifey stabs.
No. Well, I mean, fisticuffs could include knifey stabs. Basically, it's just an alternate combat system, which is meant to sort of emulate how fisticuffs happens in Star Trek style things. Everyone fights one-on-one, regardless of how many people there are. It's always one-on-one. They pair up and fight. And the more injured you are, the tougher you are.
Oh.
Yeah, there's like a back and forth kind of like you get beaten up, so then you beat them up back, and then that kind of creates that back and forth that always seems to happen in
I did not remember that you had a special fisticuffs mode.
Yeah, it doesn't come up too
it was originally it is, I guess, I called it brawls or whatever, but Chumley calls it fisticuffs, and that seems to have stuck. So
it's very theme appropriate.
So John had sent me the rules for brawling, I suppose.
And it would have totally worked, but because it's like a made-up rule set, Tim felt that it was broken, and so we kind of had like this debate about how broken it was and whether it was broken, and in the end
I dialed them back a little bit, and then they were pretty ezy to kill.
It would have actually been fine in its original form, though I have been thinking about it and how it's a little tough on the non-security people, so I am going to give it a little bit of thought to see if it can be tweaked a bit to make it better, but it would have been fine. But
the main things I can remember from the fight were that at one point Dr. Yoon sort of jumped in to do in-person brawling and did the hypospray thing. And then jumped away and let someone else come right in after she'd done the hypospray thing. So she managed to not take a hit. I think she didn't take a hit, but
no, it was mostly Daniels, which I think that's maybe Tim's complaint is this is what happens is Chumley takes on the fisticuffs because he can, it's kind of balanced well for him and he can rock it, but it's not Daniels always takes a beating in these fights, right? He doesn't lose, but he takes a beating, and that's exactly what happened. The gorilla and Ripper grabbed one of his arms, and he grabbed the other one of his arms. He was about to rip him in half, but then Chumley came and knocked him out. But I can see Tim's frustration. I mean, the combats, it's not like it's too hard to win, but he always ends them with a minor injury. Right. That's I think that's his main grievance.
So anyway, it wasn't intended to be a will they or won't they succeed sort of thing. I figured, they'll succeed. They might get banged up in the process, but they came close enough to winning the Forbidden Desert that that was my goal, and that was what happened. Daniels got a little banged up, but they managed to knock out the Warrior Starborn. And then they made their way. The technician Starborn that had come with them from Twilight Sage's domain were helping them to, hack doors and things like that. Sabine and the technicians all worked together. And yes, at one point they asked, so who is it? Someone asked what the name of their technician was. And I was like, I have names for everyone, of course. And they liked all the names and they wanted to keep them. I'm like, no, you can't keep the technicians. They're not pets, they're allies. But anyway,
That's how role-playing games work, Brian.
Oh yeah, no, it's
once something is within the domain of the party, it becomes the possession of the party.
Yes, it doesn't help that they look like cute little monkey kitten things, and Robin is one of the players. So I don't think Chumley is quite so taken with cute animals, but for Robin, it's like, I want one of those. So the party made their way inside and did some, stealthy sneaking through the air ducts kind of thing. And Radiant Fury's bunker was a lot less pleasant than Twilight Sage's. It was dry and well, I mean, you can see the sort of pictures there. But yeah, they made their way through, and they came to a vent that led into the central chamber where Radiant Fury actually was. And the technicians said, okay, you can jump through this vent, and as soon as you're through this vent, we'll trigger a security lockdown, which will cause blast doors to seal off the chamber with Radiant Fury in it. So you will have free reign with him in there. His guards won't be able to get in, except there will be a bunch of tenders who are the little monkey kitten things. But they're not really fighters, so just kick them out of your way. And Robin was like, I can't kick them. So anyway, they got there and encountered Radiant Fury. It was this Starflower. And they jumped in and started stomping and kicking on all the cute little monkey kittens. I was very careful to make sure I told Robin they were doing that. And
we didn't pause to talk. We didn't ask him his opinion.
You just went in and started shooting.
Daniel's put on his colander that has the can let him transmit the nightmare, and he just plugged himself in.
Ran up to the central trunk of Radiant Fury. Found, well, there's stick the
gorilla ion head kind of thing in the wood.
Stick the two the alligator clips on there, hooked up to the colander, and boom, pump the nightmare into the Starflower's mind, and then boom, big dramatic, lots of psychic screaming, and the pain.
Spared no expense on the VFX.
Oh yeah, well, not as much, because this is not entirely how the adventure was expected to play out. So I didn't have quite as much spectacular cinematics prepared, but yes, they basically nuked all of the connected Starflowers. So they essentially genocided the planet.
Okay.
And afterwards they asked, how many was that?
Well, because we all had a different assumption, because I was like, well, whatever. I mean, because they each have like a large domain, right? So I was like, whatever. Like, yeah, sure, we're killing their species, but it's probably like 20 to 30 individuals, right? Like technically it's their whole species, but it's like 30 guys, right?
Yeah.
And
about 6 orders of magnitude there.
Yeah, they're like, no, there was millions. We're like, oh, well, I wish I'd known that. We might have done something differently.
Whoopsie doodle.
Nobody asked.
Like the Urkel moment, like, did I do that?
So yeah, all the star flowers that were connected in their network died. A bunch of the starborn that were more advanced also probably died. Most of the starborn returned to monkey. They sort of went off, they went wild and ran off and all that sort of stuff. Because they are, not sapient normally. They're uplifted by the starflower seeds in their brains. And those all just basically shut down. So, yeah. Except the technicians that were with them were fine. And Chen was also with them. It was always sort of a, oh yes, and also Chen is here.
Yeah, one thing I didn't really think about at the time, because I was like, oh, we're only killing a few starflowers. Turns out we were killing more than a few. But even then, I didn't think about like the impact on the starborn, because I was like, whatever, they're just like they're like, I don't know, minions or something. But
Yeah,
I mean,
servitors or something. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if they all basically go from being sapient back to just being animals, that's basically the same as killing them in a way, right? Like it's like you're killing their mind. So even then, even if you only were counting them, that's still a lot of
yeah, if you want to count them, then it's not millions, it's more like billions.
Yeah, I don't think this was the right action. Looking back, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but I don't think we fully understood the consequences.
Well, that's like the story of most D&D campaigns or role-playing campaigns. You end up looking back and you're like, oh, okay.
Well,
but yeah, that happened.
They killed them all.
Almost all.
Yeah.
Twilight Sage wasn't connected because they had exiled him for being too disagreeable.
Yep, and then they convinced him to not be connected and not kill himself. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so we did point out that it wasn't genocide, it was genocide -1.
Yeah. There was only one good apple in that barrel.
I was chatting with John at lunch today, and I did mention that it's possible there's other bad apples that they disconnected from the network out there that we don't know about, and that maybe Twilight Sage doesn't even know about. So there could be other survivors. And fortunately, they would all be survivors because they were all, rebels, I guess, disagreeers with the thing. So it might be genocide minus a couple. So if you want to, yeah. But anyway. So yeah, victory.
So we only killed the ones that we didn't like or that we thought weren't it's more like eugenics then. I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but then when
killing the ones you don't like is usually how genocide works. Regardless.
I guess so. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but now describing it seems so horrible. I don't.
Yep.
There's a Finnish saying where it's like the moped like got like escaped from your fingers in the worst of ways. I think it's meant to like, describe you on a moped, and then like the moped just kind of flies off into the distance, right? Like
Finland seems like a strange place.
We have fun saying. But I mean, translating English sayings into Finnish is also very disconcerting.
True.
I think, the key thing for me is I had an assumption about the scale of what we were doing that was wrong, that was incorrect. And I don't know, like, yeah. I mean,
I think this is entirely fair, because last time John ran an adventure, he had us push a button that we thought at the time was going to kill tens of millions of people. Turns out it was a little bit fewer than that, but still a lot of people. So
I guess that's it. Once you get used to pressing the kill them all button, it's just like, there was like a lot of like, oh, what can we do? This is our only chance I guess we have to do it for the greater good. And then next time it's like, hey, we can solve our problem. We have got this kill them all button.
So that the adventure then is complete. You return home.
Sort of. No, not quite complete. So the party, and when Radiant Fury died, it wasn't like a load-bearing boss, but you know, the bunker, you know, all the lights went off and the red emergency lights came on, and
Right.
you know, the ventilation stopped and things like that. So they figured, okay, we better get out of here. So they went back out through the vent that they'd come in through, and they were met outside by a technician starborn driving a much nicer looking nuclear powered hovercraft. And this technician starborn was all sort of mangy, and his skin had lesions and all that. But he was really cheerful and happy and proud because he was the winner of who would eat the least rads while fixing this hovercraft competition that he and the other technician starborn were having amongst themselves. So he was the one that took a non-lethal dose, and he's cheerful. Yeah, I did it. So yes, the technician starborn over at Twilight Sages, and the other ones, by the way, they're fine too. They're just in pods getting cleaned up. You know, their lethal doses are being sorted out differently. But yes, so now the party has a really nice nuclear powered hovercraft that isn't a hovering radiological disaster. So they hopped on board that and they headed back to Twilight Sage's place. And it was sort of the congratulations, you've won. Now let's wrap things. Here's your boons, your rewards. Twilight Sage offered the party a device he'd made, or no, it was the other order. First, he offered them starflower seeds, custom made. These were usually the way the starflowers operate is they implant a seed in the brain of an animal that is not sapient, and the seed brings knowledge and uplifting and all that sort of stuff and makes them into people and you know, all that. Instead, Twilight Sage, since Daniels had expressed interest in this sort of thing, Twilight Sage had created seeds that were blank slates that, when implanted, would not add anything, you know, mentally wise. They would just, you know, enhance the person, and eventually they would become starborn with no, you know, connection to any particular thing. And so Daniels, who had been the one who had expressed interest last time around, said, no thanks.
Yeah, he basically, like, it kind of came down to that he wanted to, the plants are, he didn't use the word stationary, but some other word, like
Sessile.
Sessile. Plants are sessile, and space rangers are men and women of action. And there was talk of, like, eventually starflowers, you know, or in the old days, they would travel the stars. They didn't stay in one place. In fact, if you become a starflower, you can actually grow to become the starship. You can be a starship and go everywhere. But he's like, yes, but and they have their, you know, their starborns or whatever. And he's like, yes, but it's my crew that would be going off and exploring strange new worlds. I would be the guy left on the ship, right? He's like, he wants to be the Kirk. He doesn't want to be the Picard.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I don't want to be the ship. I want to be the crew. And so, you know, that was why he decided against it.
Interesting distinction. Yes.
Yeah, it was an interesting distinction, but I also sort of tried pointing out that either way, that only happens after like 100 years or so. And it's not like space rangers live that long anyway, so it's probably never going to come up. But no, he ultimately was firm in his decision. He didn't want that.
Yeah, and nobody else was like, me.
So, well, hang on, stop jumping ahead and getting it wrong.
Oh.
So yeah, so Twilight Sage was like, oh, okay, well, does anyone else of your group want a starflower seed? Except for Hawkins, you're not allowed. And
And everyone was like, why is he not allowed?
and Twilight Sage was like, I scanned you all in preparation, to make this thing, and his brainwaves, his mind has been tampered with, and I don't trust that.
Mm.
I'm being careful about who I give Starflower seeds to, especially blank slate ones like this. Because my people did terrible things, and if I'm to rebuild my people, I have to be careful about who gets to be a Starflower. So yeah, Hawking's been tampered with, and I don't trust that. So I'm making an executive decision he's ineligible. And the expectation was that the party would now start grilling Hawking about, what's up with that.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they just gave him a suspicious look and then nothing.
And away from the mystery.
And it was interesting because like my thought was like Hawking is never going to intentionally reveal his secrets, but I need some way to do it. And it's like if he's under suspicion, he'll have to reveal them in order to get out of suspicion.
Right.
But they just didn't seem all that suspicious. And even when we started talking about it, they're like, oh no, I don't. We're not really suspicious. But if you want to tell us, you can. And I'm like, okay, well he'll never tell you then. But then the thing that was really interesting is because like. I had talked to Brian about this before to kind of like set this up or whatever. And at the time I didn't think about it, but once we were there, I realized Hawking really, really, really wants a Starflower seed. Like he just like, that's like the thing he wants probably more than anything. Like he just desperately would want that. And I can't really say why without saying what's up with him, but like he wants it so bad. And so
didn't realize,
but I'd already kind of planned it with Brian that he would be excluded. And then I didn't realize, because I don't care really as a player, but like suddenly I realized he wants it like so bad. So
but yeah, you know who ended up saying yeah sure? You'll never guess.
Yoon?
No, I'm not there. Oh no, Yoon. I thought you said you. No, it was Sabine. Ampele, yes, the one who has for like the past 5 adventures always had something horrendously traumatic happen to her brain.
Yep.
Just wants like nothing more traumatic to happen. She just got out of like some sort of retreat center.
Intensive therapy or whatever, or her PTSD for having a mind snake. And these are the guys that made the mind snakes.
And she's like, yep, mind snake me.
I think the thing that ultimately was the deciding thing for her was it would protect her from any future intrusions into her mind.
Makes sense.
And yeah, it will.
All she has to do is trust Radiant Fury, or not Radiant Fury, Twilight Sage, that he's telling the truth. And then if that's the case, then she's protected from future problems.
Yeah, I sort of flippantly said, it'll occupy the slot, so nothing else can go in there. But it will actually it'll defend, fight back against intrusion and stuff like that. So yeah, Twilight Sage presented a Starflower to her. What you do is you smell the flower, it makes you pass out, and then it sticks a seed up your nose.